Today on Espresso, I'm Kevon.
So we are joined by Peter Davies from Get Safe Online. Welcome and good morning.
Thanks for having me. Good morning to you. Really nice to be talking to you.
Awesome, thanks. So we'd love to start these interviews off with you. Just tell us a little bit about who you are and what it is you do.
Yeah, okay. I'll be brief. My name is Peter. I'm the global ambassador for an organization called Get Safe Online. We do exactly what the organization's name says we do, which is we try and get people safe online, especially relevant now that more and more people around the world and certainly in the Caribbean are spending time online, doing business online. And what we do, and I'll go into that, is we provide free advice, guidance, and awareness raising to people in 22 countries in the Commonwealth of Nations, including 12 countries in the Caribbean. So allow me, if I may, just to wish you a belated happy Commonwealth Day, because it's the Commonwealth of Nations that brings us to your doorstep.
Indeed, indeed.
Awesome, thank you. So you mentioned that you're working in 22 countries, 12 of which are from the Caribbean. Can you share what countries benefit from Get Safe Online and the partnerships you formed with the islands?
Well, yeah, well, I can give you a long list. I'll just take you through where we are in the Caribbean. The other countries are in the Pacific. We work with 9 Pacific islands. They range from quite big clusters of islands like Papua New Guinea, which has a bigger population than any of the countries in the Caribbean, quite to tiny islands with a population that just creeps into 10,000. We also work in Rwanda in Africa, but the Caribbean countries that we've been working with really for a couple of years now: Antigua and Barbuda, Bahamas, Barbados, Belize, Dominica, Grenada, Guyana, Jamaica, St Kitts and Nevis, of course, St Lucia, St Vincent and the Grenadines, and Trinidad and Tobago. So in all those places, we've got a footprint. We try and reach people in each of those countries in a way that appeals and deliver them the best information they can have. So whether they're at work or at home or at play, they can stay safe in this new digital world we inhabit.
All right, that's so interesting.
Awesome.
Yeah, so you mentioned that the whole role and goal of Get Safe Online is to help people do exactly as the name states. What are some of the issues that you guys have seen with people being online, and you know, how do you guys go about helping us to do exactly that, get safe?
Okay, sure. Well, the issues, there are lots and lots of issues, and it's one of the problems with my job is everybody wants you to really simplify stuff, and I can see the attraction of simplifying it, but there are many, many different ways of getting into trouble online and many different ways of making yourself safer online. So one of the unique things about what we do is if you go to our website, which is www.getsafeonline.kn, it's St Kitts and Nevis domain name, and it's designed for people on the islands. There are lots of different ways of coming to harm. I'll pick a few headlines though, because you have to. The first thing to realize is that the global pandemic has transformed the amount of time people spend online and also the amount of things that people do online. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because everybody knows that a digital economy is a really important part of the economy across the Caribbean, particularly in St Kitts and Nevis. And I know there's lots of work going on to create a more digital economy, because that way lies a better standard of living for people, and also more resilience and more ability to withstand the occasional natural disaster and other things that can come their way. But the fact is, whether you're socializing with your friends from school, or whether you're keeping in touch with your family, or whether you're trying to do business, whether it's your banking or as a small business trying to do invoices, payments, and so on, you're very likely to be spending a lot more time on the internet now than before. And that just means that you've got to be even more careful, because the exposure you have to risk is just getting greater. Every time we go to any new country, and we ask this open question in every single Caribbean country when we were starting the service up, we always said, who are your most vulnerable groups? And that's the way of looking at it. What are the people that we should worry most about? Everyone's at risk. There is nobody who knows so much about online safety that they are completely safe. It's a constant process. But the people we worry most about are children and young people, and also what we might call the silver surfers, the people of a certain age, such as me, if you can see me on the camera. With children and young people, they've often got a plan, they've got a mobile device in their hand, and the issue is not whether they know how to operate it generally. The issue is that their awareness of what they can do with it is probably greater than the amount of social responsibility or awareness or general concern for safety that people may have instilled into them. And so they can get into trouble through things like oversharing, giving out their personal data to people who are going to make bad use of it, and such things like that. For the older generation, it's a different kind of thing. Often people above a certain age lack confidence because this is a new world. This isn't the world that people grew up in. It's not the world that I grew up in. And to see all these younger people so adept, so skilled, and for it to be so intuitive for them to do stuff online and realize that we have to think a lot harder about it is a bit of a challenge. So we're worried that people in that kind of category may not be getting all the benefit of being online, and we know there's loads of benefit of being online, because they don't have the confidence. Or they may not realize that all the instincts they have about how to stay safe that they've learned through decades, maybe the hard way, hopefully not, in the physical world, those instincts and that common sense actually transfers and applies online as well. In terms of the threats, I think that there are so many ways of being compromised. The things I worry about most are people being bullied or abused online, particularly children and the vulnerable, and the immense amount of different types of scams that pretty much anybody can fall foul of if they're not very careful.
Yeah, I mean, actually, speaking of scams, and you mentioned the susceptibility of children, the pandemic, like you said, caused a lot of people to be online more, and so we had children who were doing online classes, even here in St Kitts. And you mentioned again some scams, and you guys have been addressing and trying to do some work in sensitizing people about these issues with some webinars. One, I think, was fishing in the Caribbean, and the other one would have been safe online learning, right?
That's right, absolutely. And that's two specific threats that have kind of emerged. Unfortunately, those have gone, but I think if you or your listeners go on our Facebook community, Get Safe Online Caribbean, you'll find that it's still possible to virtually attend those webinars and get the learning. And of course, phishing there is phishing with a PH. If you don't know what that means, go and look at the webinar and learn, because it's probably happened to you already. And safe online learning, is how to go about that schooling and that studying in a safe environment. But we've, as I think you know, we've got another one coming up on another key issue. So hopefully you're going to ask me about that, but I'm in your hands. It's your show, not mine.
But definitely. So it's good that people could still go and receive the information for those webinars that pass. But you have one coming up that speaks to something that is a big deal here in the Caribbean for a lot of families, and that is remittances. Tell us a bit about that webinar coming up, and when is it? Give us a little more information on that.
Yeah, sure. Well, look, it's coming up on the 26th of March, and so I think that's a fortnight come Friday. So people have plenty of time to get ready for it, make a bit of space in the diary. If people want to find out more and register, within a few days, they will be able to go on the website. I'll repeat it, getsafeonline.kn, or on our Facebook community, Get Safe Online Caribbean, and they'll be able to register. But the reason why we think this is important, and I'm so glad to hear from you that it's important, is because in pretty much every community in the Caribbean, and also this is something in the Pacific as well, a lot of people go out look for a better life, go and get work elsewhere, and quite understandably want to send some money home to their loved ones. There are occasions when it's the other way around. People go abroad to study, and it's their loved ones at home that support them through sending them enough money to get by while they're doing those studying. Either way, it's a really important part of giving people a chance to improve their life. And just as everything else, there are risks and there are ways of getting caught out. And so we're very keen to make sure that people are aware of the risks, do the sensible things to minimize or eliminate them, and that way they get their money, the hard-earned money that they've worked so hard to get, gets the people they want to receive it, and everybody stays safe and gets on with their lives. So yeah, that's what the webinar's about, and we know it's a key issue for a lot of people, and that's why we're very, very keen to help out and help people be as safe as they can.
Awesome. So the webinar focuses primarily on remittances. Can you explain to the listeners what the term remittances means, and what does it mean in terms of online safety?
Yeah, for sure. Remittances, if people aren't familiar with the term, it's just a long word for sending money home or sending money to a loved one, normally across a national boundary. So, you know, for example, we might have somebody who's left St Kitts to go and work in another country, and still wants to look after their family or their parents or loved ones back home. The process of sending a little bit of the money they've earned back home and putting it in the pockets of the people they love, that's all we mean by remittances. And of course, that is a process that's been going on for centuries. The difference now is a process that is actually much more efficient and much quicker, and if you do it right, much safer, because of this great thing that we call the internet. So that's all we mean by the term remittances. And anybody who might be wanting to send money to another country, or might be hoping to receive money from someone in another country, it's well worth paying attention to the subject and keeping what we say in mind. I won't go into too much detail, that's what the webinar is for, but I'll give you 3 basics if I can. What are the risks? For the people sending the money, the risk is that you're not using a trustworthy, reliable, lawful means of doing it. You may, you know, hand cash to somebody and trust them to go back home and hand it over to the right people. That may work some of the time, but a lot of the time it doesn't. And there's a delay in that, of course. If you want to go online, there are some really good, legal, registered, reputable services available. I'm not going to mention any of them because there are plenty out there, but you need to find one of those, one of the reliable, registered, legal ones recommended by the government in St Kitts and Nevis, recommended in the country wherever you are. You need to register properly and use the service. And also at the other end, just make sure you know what the plan is, how easy it can be for your recipient to go and get what you want them to get, particularly if they want to pick up cash, which is often the case. So important for the person sending to use a proper service, because I won't go into the long list of things that can go wrong if they don't, but it's that simple. Go to a reputable service, register properly, do the right thing. For the people on the receiving end, really, if the person on the sending end has done the right things, you don't need to worry, but you do just need to encourage the person on the sending end to follow the advice I just gave. And also, you really don't want to have too many intermediaries involved in handling your money. But the main risks are with the sender, not the receiver. The other thing I'll mention is this, and we see a fair amount of this in the Caribbean and elsewhere, and I understand why people might fall for it, but there's quite a lot of people online telling you you can earn easy money by taking that basic process of sending money and allowing somebody else to hop onto the back of your bank account, hop onto the back of your remittance service. And the deal is this: they put some money in your account, you send it off to whoever they send you should say it, they say you should send it to, and you keep a little bit for yourself. That is actually called money muling. It's a form of money laundering. And the problem with that is it's criminal activity that can get you locked up. And also, the normal thing with it is it doesn't just stop there. It doesn't stay as a cheap, easy way to make money. It gets more serious, it gets more intense until you've actually been put in a bad place and bled dry. So I think those are the three main risks. It's about sending sensibly, receiving sensibly, and avoiding the temptation that these processes offer to get involved in some shady business that may lead to a situation that nobody actually wants.
Well, I think this is actually necessary because a lot of the times, especially as you said, our grandparents, for instance, they fall for these scams. Like they fall for somebody asking them for help because a lot of these times that's how it comes. Like it's not just people coming outright and asking you for money. They play on your heartstrings. They ask you for help for some charity or for the church, and it's a scam.
You're absolutely right, and there are so many different varieties of scam, and basically anything that people might fall for will have been tried and will be tried, and quite often it's people with a good heart, with good intentions, who like to do the right thing and they make their contributions to society, who have that goodwill exploited by maybe being a little bit gullible, or maybe falling for something that, as I say, in the real world, if someone knocked on their door with the same story, they wouldn't fall for it. But because it's online, because they don't know how to check it out or verify what they see, some people do fall foul. I'm afraid there's a lot of it. There's plenty of it in the Caribbean. There's plenty of it elsewhere. It's a curse, and it's something that we would love to eliminate. But this is why one of the things, our services, I believe, are important, because there's the first line of defense is the person. If the person receiving that email or being the victim of that attempted scam has their radar going, thinks, well, this could be a scam. How do I check it's not a scam? And knows how to do that and knows where to go for advice, then suddenly the vulnerability is that much less. And that's why the website, getsafeonline.kn, conversations like this, which hopefully your listeners are able to tune into, and everything else we're trying to do are so important, because the internet is right there in your pocket, it's there on your table, and it's right there in your home. And so you, the individual, have got to be part of your defenses against that kind of thing that you rightly referred to, and all the other forms of harm that regrettably can occur.
Well, this sounds like a big job, and I'm sure that you you have to have help in spreading the word on this, because this is something that again we need to hear, especially the vulnerable amongst us. So how do you get your word out to the people on the ground?
Well, thank you very much. We're trying everything we can to do that. And look, if any of your listeners think, well, I tell you what, she's absolutely right. We need to get the word out. We need to do something here more than we're doing. I'd love them to contact us, because at the moment we've been running something called an ambassador scheme. And that's where people with a sense of community service, a desire to keep their community safe, actually volunteer to be an ambassador for Get Safe Online within their community. So instead of me sat here a long way away, unfortunately, talking to you, you get somebody who is already from St Kitts and Nevis, who already understands the entire way of living, and can reach people face to face in a way that I can't possibly imitate. Now, we've set up that scheme. It's been successful in most countries. Because of the pandemic, we've not been able to lift it off as we would like in St Kitts and Nevis, but we still want to hear from people who might like to do that. So I've already mentioned the website, getsafeonline.kn. I've mentioned the Facebook community, Get Safe Online Caribbean. I'm afraid I've got another reference for you. Maybe you can put these up on your website or remind people of this. But if someone's listening to that and thinks, yeah, she's right, we need to do something, there are worse things you could do than try and become a Get Safe Online ambassador. And the first step in that is just to write to us at ambassador@getsafeonline.org. That's ambassador@getsafeonline.org. I would love to hear from people on St Kitts who would like to take that next step that you're talking about.
Wow, I hope people are listening and understanding the importance of this because, again, this is something that happens way too often, and especially to our grandparents or even our kids because sometimes, we hand our kids the phone to play with, to occupy their time, and a whole crisis happens just off of a 2-year-old pressing some buttons. So.
Yeah, well, listen, I don't know about you, but I don't know if you've got kids yourself, but you clearly are tuned into this. One of the biggest issues for parents is that probably by the time the kids are 7 or 8, they know more about how to operate the internet than you do. Yep. I don't know if that rings home with you, but it certainly rings home with me and a lot of people we speak to. And because we know that, once again, I'll encourage people, if you're a parent thinking, my God, how do I keep my kids safe online? How do I even start a conversation? We've got material on our website, getsafeonline.kn, to help you answer those questions for yourself. There can't be anything more important to a parent than keeping their children safe. And these days, part of that is not teaching them to cross the road, not keeping them healthy. It's also keeping them safe and healthy online. So now's a good time for any concerned parent to get the advice that we're offering. It's completely free of charge, of course. We just want people to read it, pick it up, get something from it, and help make themselves and their loved ones a little bit safer as a result.
Awesome. So let's just, before we wrap up, we'll just give you the chance to tell everybody what social platforms are you on, where they can find you, connect with you, follow you for information, for any updates and things like that.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for that. Let me keep it simple. To follow us and join in our community, and this is well over 10,000 people across the Caribbean, go to our Facebook page, which is Get Safe Online Caribbean, all one word. That's how to join the community, and that's updated nearly every day with news and events and stuff. And there's an awful lot that goes on all the time. So there's always something new to look at there. For the reference point about any aspect of online safety, and I mean any aspect, we cover everything, go to getsafeonline.kn. It's a fantastic website. We've actually just refreshed it this week. It looks faster, slicker than ever. It's designed to be easy to read on a mobile phone, so you don't need to have a desktop. Wherever you're standing now, just tap in getsafeonline.kn and take a look. Put it as a favorite, come back again and again, because there's a lot on there. And finally, if you have a little bit of time to spare on the 26th of March, and you'd like to understand more about remittances to keep yourself and your loved ones safe, just keep an eye out on those two places. The webinar will come up as an advert. Please register, please join us and join this great community of interest that we've been privileged to build in St Kitts and Nevis and in the Caribbean generally.
Well, thank you for that information. Okay, go ahead, Kevon.
It's my absolute pleasure. Thank you.
Go ahead, Kevon.
Oh, I was just saying thank you for joining us. It was super informative, and I really hope that everybody takes advantage of, this webinar, learn some new stuff. I hope ambassadors reach out and start, getting on board with this. I love what's happening, and I hope to hear more from you. We'd love updates, and we'd love to see how the just send us a message. You can tell us how the webinar went as well.
Okay, we will do that. From you. Yeah, thank you very much, and it'd be a great pleasure to speak to you again and to your listeners. And you guys all have a great day. Thank you very much for having me.
All right, thank you very much. So now we'll take a very, very short